You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
All right, so here's the next up. Josh Lattimer. This is going to be epic. I already know it. It's going to be crazy awesome. Josh is the undercard for sure. For real, do me a favor. Raise your hand if you, no lie, no hype, it doesn't make any difference, but let me know for real if you've ever heard Josh Lattimer. It's probably, okay, it's actually a little bit more than I thought, but this is really cool. So the other 80% of you, including the 20% that do know him, you guys know that you're in for a treat if you've heard Josh Lattimer speak before. I did not know Josh Lattimer until about a year ago. I came to Keith Kalfas's event. Josh was one of the speakers. He only talked for like 40 minutes maybe, and in 40 minutes I feel, and this is not stage talk, I'm telling you, I feel like I learned in 40 minutes more than what it took me 5 years to learn on my own. Josh is one of us. He ran a service business, I think power washing and window cleaning, if I'm not mistaken. Was running around $200,000 a month in sales. For the most part, had the business completely automated. He's a automated and systems kind of a guy. Who's ever heard, you need systems in your business? And to me, that's like Fibonacci numbers and hyperboles. I don't even know what that means. But Josh is the kind of guy that understands what it takes to grow a business, how to scale a business, how to eliminate bottlenecks in your business, especially if you're trying to grow a larger company. So I'm not going to give any longer of an introduction, although he is definitely deserving of it. So do me, again, a huge Lawntrepreneur Academy warm welcome for Josh Lattimer. Get on your feet. Let's go. Woo! Here we go, brother. Get it. Thank you.
Hola. How are you? Hey, before I even get into my slideshow as he's getting it loaded up over there, do you realize what kind of an insane unfair advantage y'all have, like having access to the education, the resources, the communities, YouTube, the technology? Can you imagine trying to build your business 25 years ago compared to like right now? It was funny when Keith was talking, he's like getting mad at the young kid, right? But there's so much resource. And so if we could give a massive round of applause for all the influencers like Stan and Keith and Brian and all the ones I don't know that are helping the industry. This is my high school sweetheart, Ashley, and my 5 tiny humans. We have Maverick, Tucker, Sawyer, Finley, and Judah. Does anybody in this room have 5 kids at least? Raise your hand. Whoever runs up here first gets a $20 bill because you're going to need it. Who wants a $20 bill? Here you go. You're going to need it, man.
Oh, man, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Congratulations. What we're going to talk about, we are going to talk about a little bit of nerdy business stuff, but we're going to keep it super fun. If you want to grow a business, take notes and pay attention. One of the big mistakes about live events is we plow all this information in our brain, and then we leave, and then our notebook collects dust. So maybe put little stars or little indicators next to some of the golden nuggets that maybe you've learned today and might learn now. We're going to talk about the 3 simple requirements for success in business. Now, these are not 3 simple suggestions to succeed in business. These are like gravitational laws. These are things that you have to have, and you have to have all 3. If you only have one of them, it will not work. I want to ask you all a question before we get started. I already know the answer to it. Do you desire to be massively successful in business? Say yes. Yes. Do you desire to be massively successful in business? Say yes. Yes. Hell yes, right? That's awesome, because the first requirement is desire. Now, desire is the easy one. Like, I think we all have desires. If I was to poll the United States and I asked everybody in the United States and I said, what percentage of those people, if I asked them, would you like to have $1 million in your checking account? What percentage would say yes to that? What do you think? Just shout it out. 100%, right? But what percentage of people actually have that? Like, I don't even know the answer to that, but the point is that desire by itself isn't enough, but it is required to start with. In fact, as a business coach, the one thing I can never help people with is creating hunger in another person. Even when it comes to your employees, the one thing you can't train is hunger. And just a quick sidebar tip, when you're looking at employees, you want to figure out, is this a person that has desire in their life? Are they trying to do something and go somewhere, or are they just going through the motions and they don't have that fire in their belly? You know what I mean? Say yes? Right. Okay, so when I was in 8th grade, this is an actual picture of me in 8th grade, by the way. When I was in 8th grade, our teacher gave us this really cool assignment. And the assignment was to write a letter to our future self. It's super cool. And if you have kids, it's a cool thing to do with them. And we're supposed to describe, like at our graduation day senior year, we're supposed to write out like what we would have become. And I got super pumped because I had such clear desire on exactly what I wanted by the time I graduated high school. And so I started writing this letter, handwrite it, and then they seal it up, and they keep the letter, and then they give it to all the high school seniors like years later. I could see it in 4K. I was going to graduate with a 4.0 grade point average. I was going to be a 6'4", 220-pound middle linebacker going to play Division I college football on a full ride scholarship, right? The desire for those things, because that's what I wrote in the letter, was authentic. It was real. I was convinced that this would be me at 18 years old. Turns out the truth is closer to this. What's ironic, though, is I got the weight really close. It's just a different shape. So desire alone is not enough to be successful, although it's very, very important. Requirement number 2 is belief. What's requirement number 2? What's requirement number 2? Belief. Super important. I want you to watch this super short clip. Is the audio going to work in this video? Okay, here we go.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Wow. Right? Am I just the only nerd in this room that just went, poof, right? Now, fleas can't talk, I don't think. But if I was hanging out with some fleas at like a backyard community barbecue, and we're all sitting around like eating whatever fleas eat, and we're just talking, if I was to ask the fleas about their hopes and desires and their beliefs and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure that their idea of a perfect life isn't to only be able to jump this high when they could jump this high, right? Their desire would not be to live their life inside the jar. And so the principle I'm trying to demonstrate is that wanting something, although very powerful, is useless by itself. You also have to have the belief to go with it. And what they did in the experiment, by putting the lid on for 3 days, is they crushed the belief of the fleas. And then the craziest part of the entire video reminds me a little bit of when Keith was talking. It's the fact that the offspring of the fleas are kind of screwed before they even start, right? Anybody ever had someone that did not believe in you? Raise your hand. You ever felt like you were like the underdog? Or maybe friends or family, or maybe you were the first entrepreneur in your family, or maybe you made really horrible mistakes earlier in your life, and then when you finally wanted to change things and become positive and to do something with yourself, people just were like, oh, no. And what's happening when that happens is people are trying to steal your belief. When you have a large belief, it makes other people uncomfortable. Can you imagine being the one flea? It's like, guys, I think there's like a conspiracy theory. Like, I think we can jump higher than they're like, shut up, Tom. Right? They're trying to steal Tom's belief. For me, my journey after high school started in this beautiful trailer park, or as my friend Marshall called it, my condominium. I married my high school sweetheart at 20 years old. I was a pizza delivery driver for Domino's Pizza. I loved that job. And this is where I started to really stoke my desire in business. I didn't know business was even a thing, but the guy that hired me to work at the pizza store, he was my football coach, and he was the first entrepreneur I ever met. And he had a Corvette. And he worked 1 million hours a week, and he could barely afford the Corvette, but that was a big deal to me. And so I would drive around in my Chevy S10 listening to like Tony Robbins cassette tape. Everybody know what a cassette tape is? We good? Yeah. I'd listen to like Robert Kiyosaki. I'd go home, I'd read books on like anything that had to do with entrepreneurship, and I was building my desire. I finally mustered enough courage to start an actual company, and this was my first work truck. Yeah, it's not a truck, but I did call it the work truck even back then. It was a 1993 Chevy Cavalier with a perfect amount of rust on it, and it had a 28-foot Werner ladder strapped to the roof. Now, if you notice, there's not a ladder rack on this car. They don't come equipped with that standard. It was just on the actual roof. It rubbed all the paint off and caused my roof to rust. I also had a 16-foot collapsible ladder inside, like through the trunk, like the back seats would come down. And this car was how I started my window cleaning and pressure cleaning business. It was so embarrassing to drive it that I would hide it when I could do an estimate. I would park way over there, and I'd walk like 3 blocks, and I'd give the estimate, and they'd hire me. And then when the day came for me to do the job, I'd roll up in this bad boy, right? And they're looking out the window like, oh my God, what did I do? I was really excited when I started my business until I got slapped with the reality of what I call the normies. Now, normies are people that we all love, but they're not like us. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but literally every single person in this room is a total weirdo. You're an entrepreneur. You decided to jump off the cliff and build a plane on the way down. People don't do that. We're going against the grain. We like to think bigger. Like you binge watch like self-improvement videos on Keith Kalf. People don't do that, right? You know you're weird, right? In a good way? Well, normies are all of our friends and families that they don't get what we're doing at an event like this. They think your little lawn business is cute. Oh, Billy, that's so cute. Why don't you go get a real job sometime, Billy? And when I started my company, my own mom wouldn't talk to me for a week. And I love my mom. She loves me. We're good, so don't panic. But she literally was pissed because I had gotten a job at Chase Bank, being a little personal banker, and she thought I was going to ruin my life. She couldn't see the vision, right? She was trying to steal my belief. We're going to watch another short video that's powerful.
A group of scientists placed 5 monkeys in a cage and in the middle a ladder with bananas on top. Every time a monkey went up the ladder, the scientists soaked the rest of the monkeys with cold water. After a while, every time a monkey went up the ladder, the others beat up the one on the ladder. After some time, no monkey dared go up the ladder, regardless of the temptation. Scientists then decided to substitute one of the monkeys. The first thing this new monkey did was go up the ladder. Immediately, the other monkeys beat him up. After several beatings, the new member learned not to climb the ladder, even though he never knew why. A second monkey was substituted, and the same occurred. The first monkey participated on the beating for the second monkey. The replacements repeated until what was left was a group of 5 monkeys that, even though never received a cold shower, continued to beat up any monkey who attempted to climb the ladder. If you asked the new group of monkeys why the beatings took place, the answer would probably be,
well, I don't know. That's just how things are done around here.
That's pretty interesting, wouldn't you say? And if you missed it, what happened was the original monkeys would get sprayed with cold water when someone would try to achieve something. When someone would actually have a goal to get the bananas, they'd punish everybody around them, and so they'd pull that person down. Well, they kept swapping out the monkeys, and eventually the entire cage is full of monkeys that never even were sprayed with water. But they just do it because that's what you're supposed to do. Now, when it comes to our business, what we do is we're doing things like Keith, when he started and he was freaked out with the Greek guy who's like, do it, like that guy. When Keith was in that state, he was doing what he thought you were supposed to do. And it's hard to manufacture belief when you're not surrounded by it. That's why events like this are such a big deal. I don't know what you guys paid to be in the room, but it's worth it, times a huge multiplier. Not because the fancy piece of equipment you'll see necessarily or like one little tip. It's because you're going to be surrounded by people who are crushing it. You're going to get to meet people like Stanley Genetic and like Brian and Keith and other high achievers that are doing something. And it helps you to just gradually level up your belief. Now, I had a strong desire for success, but I had low belief because I was in a cage full of my normie friends. And that's not how we did things. And for the first 3 years of my company, it was massive pain and suffering. I had a car repossessed. That's humiliating. I had a horrible credit because I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't pay my electric bill. They shut it off. My whole basement flooded, and all of our stuff was ruined. That's humiliating. My wife, with our newborn child, was at the grocery store trying to just buy normal groceries, and her debit cards declined as she's checking out with $200 worth of groceries. And she calls me crying and had to walk out of the store, totally embarrassed. And by the way, you know when your debit cards decline, like the first thing you do with the cashier is like, I'm sorry that was declined. And then your response is like, first of all, ma'am, you need to lower your voice. Okay. Second of all, it's clearly ISIS or something. Like, there must be some mistake with the internet. Just try it again. Try it. Oh, the internet's broken. Well, the internet wasn't broken. I just was broke. So as we're kind of rounding out point number 2, point number 1 was you have to have desire. Point number 2 is you have to have belief. I want you to understand that belief has to do with your potential. It doesn't necessarily have to do with anything with your results, unless we put all 3 of these things in place. But it has to do with potential. You know, action is what equals the results. Now, I will say it's a lot easier to take action when you have a high level of belief. Would you agree? Say yes? Okay, so if I knew for a fact there was $500,000 worth of gold nuggets underneath this stage, if I believed it in my heart to be true, would it be hard for me to motivate myself to crawl under the stage and get it? Yes or no? No, because I have certainty. The people that I'm friends with at this stage of my life now who are crushing it and changing the world and changing industry and just doing things and thinking big and they're giving and they're generous and they're just doing all this stuff. These people walk with a sense of certainty that's lacking for maybe a small entrepreneur who's trying to get traction and trying to get their initial belief. How many of us know someone who has a lot of potential, but their bank account looks like this? You know what I mean? Anybody? Probably some of the people in this room have a lot of potential and your bank account looks like that, right? The thing is, though, is that when you put the third piece in place, systems, is when all of this can explode like a rocket ship. So if you're failing in business or you're stuck or you're not where you want to be currently, with certainty, I can guarantee you it has to do with either you've lost your desire and hunger, you need to level up your belief, or you have the wrong systems. Now back to this bank account thing. Here's another truth. Can I tell you the truth because I care about you, honestly? I really do. Whatever balance is in your checking account right now is correct. It's exactly what it's supposed to be. Are you mad at me? Can I still talk? Okay. I don't want to get beat up or something. But this is the hard truth. Everybody also in this room, here's another mind bomb, already has a fully systemized business. I'm not talking about should you learn and figure out systems. Y'all already have systems. We have systems in our household. Like the way that you get up and talk to your wife is a system. The way that you speak life into your children or don't is a system. The way that you talk to yourself is a system. The way that you do or don't measure your numbers is a system. The way that you do or don't follow up with leads to close the deal is a system. Everything we do is already a system. If you don't follow up with your customers, you have a zero-touch follow-up system. That's not a very effective system. And I think it's important to take responsibility and ownership over the truth that wherever we're at is correct. Okay, so in business, I started that cleaning business. I went from the normies, you know, my parents not talking to me and all that stuff, pain and suffering. Once I started implementing simple systems in my business, I up-leveled my belief. We grew that company and automated it. I ended up selling it. We moved to Costa Rica for a couple years. I started a software company called SendGym. Actually, some of you might, does anybody use SendGym in here? Got a couple users. That business is now doing over $2 million a year and growing, and we hired a CEO for it, and I'm hands off on it. I started an educational company called AutomateGrowSell.com, and I have a podcast that you can also listen to if you want to go deeper with this, because I know we have a short time, on all the systems you need in the order that you need them. And I have a resource at the end of this too for you that will help with this, because it's not as hard as you might think that it is. And the QuickTalkPodcast.com, there's over 400 episodes. I interview people like Keith, like Stanley, people doing millions of dollars in sales that came from nothing. Really, really amazing stuff. And it's totally free. The reason I tell you all that isn't to brag. It's to say that when your desire and your belief and your systems are in alignment at the right level, everything shifts. So now we're going to get into the really nerdy stuff in the content portion. And if we have time at the end, I can answer any questions if anybody has any, because I want you guys to get this. I want you to change your family tree forever. I want you to make a dent in the universe with your business. You don't have to have your cute little business. Build a beast, create jobs, be a world changer. And the way that I see it, because I've worked with over 1,000 other service companies over the last 5 years, is there's 5 distinct stages to scaling a company. And even if you don't realize that all of you will go through these same 5 stages, even if you're already doing millions, you'll look back and say, yeah, oh, that's right, that's how it worked. And stage 1 is when you're the guy in the field mowing the thing. You're the guy or girl doing the thing. You're like out in the field, sweating, working, mowing, hardscaping, pooper scoopering, whatever, right? How many people would classify themselves as stage 1? This means that 50% or more of your working hours are in the field. Can you raise your hand if you're stage 1? Okay, awesome. That helps me. When you graduate to stage 2, that means you have a minimum of 2 crews in the field doing stuff without you, and you're focused more on administrative stuff. Now, small business owners have to do everything, right? So like a stage 2 business is a more realistic picture is like they have sticky notes all over their truck and they're on their phone and they're like doing stuff. Like their truck is their administration. They're just on the phone. They have some initial momentum. They still hop in the field and help. They still have to go fix all the stuff that their crews are screwing up. But approximately 50% of their time now is on holding it together and making payroll and like doing paperwork and typing in the CRM. Who would say that they're a stage 2 business right now? Okay, cool. Stage 3 is when 50% or more of your time is focused on feeding the beast. That means making it rain like a hurricane, AKA sales. And a situation like this means you have like a full operations manager or like an office manager. You have multiple crews in the field they're crushing it. And you can focus on relationship marketing and like developing real momentum around your sales process and your brand and making your phone blow up so that you can feed all these mouths, right? Is there any stage 3 businesses that are focused on sales? Yeah? A couple back there? Awesome. That's amazing. Stage 4, you're a general manager. Now, to qualify as a stage 4 business, you have to have like a sales department with people in it, probably several. You're going to have an administrative department, you know, like your HR, your office stuff, some assistants, and then you're going to have a bunch of techs. You're going to have like a field manager, or Stanley, what do you call it in this industry? Like ops manager, field manager, something like that. So you're going to have that, and then you're just kind of overseeing it. And then the goal is to get to stage 5, where you're the business owner, which is awesome. You can have this document that lays out all these systems. If you take out your phone right now, this is the easiest way for me to give it to you than printing them off. This is a 31-page, just free resource. And I put it together with a friend of mine named Brandon Vaughn. And Brandon took his service company from $100,000 a year in sales to $4 million in sales in 5 seasons. And what this lays out is exactly the systems you need for each stage in the order that you need them, which is a huge deal, right? Like, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like a lot of boring stuff, but this is like superpower stuff. Because if you have the desire and you have the belief, and that's, I think everybody in this room probably does, this probably is the missing piece for you. If something's broken in your business, I guarantee it's a system. It's an incorrect system or a missing system. Or you've outgrown the system. Does that make sense? Am I doing okay? Okay. The last thing I want to say is that for me, what's important to me is to help people understand the real opportunity that you have with a small business. The people in this room have the earning potential of a professional athlete. You ever thought about that? Like, think about how professional athletes like take care of their body. Like, they don't drive themselves places, or like everything's choreographed in their life. Like, their meals are done, and they're not like necessarily like cleaning their own toilet because they're like taking care of themselves because they're their asset, right? When you have a small business, you can make as much as a professional athlete, but we don't treat ourselves like that. We don't have that mindset where we're like, you know, maybe I should like sit down for 6 hours and do a deep dive on systems and just finally learn this thing. And this picture here is actually a certificate of ownership for a gold claim from the 1800s. And everybody in this room, whatever service area you have, that's your gold claim. That's your gold claim. And this stage, like, there's 6 little squares that you can't see up on this stage, right? And when I work with businesses, I'll see each business owner standing on their own gold claim, but they're not digging in the ground. They're not like getting out, and I'm just like, why aren't you covered in dirt and up to your ears in mud, like getting the nuggets out? Because this gold is already certified to be in the ground. Like, your customers already exist. You don't have to create them. They're already there. You have to get them to choose you. And like, why is there not more velocity behind it? Why aren't we charging higher prices, creating more momentum? Why are we so scared to dig? And the people that I see crushing it, like Keith said, the young kid who's just like crushing it, that kid, the belief's higher because of influencers and all the education that's out there. The desire's high, and they have decision velocity, and they're just going. And they're in there like covered in mud, just throwing nuggets up over their head like this, right? And that's what I want for you guys. That's what I want for you guys. So as we land the plane, if anybody has questions, I'll be around for a little bit. I'm actually going to an early Thanksgiving with my family. I'm a couple hours away from here after this, and it's going to be amazing. But I want to hang out and shake your hand if I haven't met you yet. But that's it. Does anybody have any specific questions about systems or anything related to business? Sure. Yes. He's asking, like, how do you create a system, right? There's 5 steps to creating a system. These are my steps. They work awesome. Step number 1 is to create a mind map. Everybody know what a mind map is? It's like one of those spiderwebby looking softwares. You can like dump all of your thoughts. So for example, let's say that you have an office and you go to the bathroom and there's no toilet paper. And now you're stranded in the bathroom. And you're like, who is running this company? Like, this is outrageous. So we need to create a toilet paper ordering system. The idea is to just document it and then delegate it and then be consistent with it. But you start with a mind map. That's number 1. You puke out all of the things that are wrong with your business, even if they're not connected. You don't have to worry about making it a perfect flowy thing. Just get everything out. Like, my employees are late. A guy was smoking a doobie on the job site. That can't happen, right? Like whatever issues there are. I have no money. I don't understand my numbers, whatever. And we're going to mind map it. Step 2 is to export the mind map to plain text. And that turns your ugly mind map into like a Word doc, but it's a mess. Step 3 is to polish and formalize, which means you have your messy Word doc and you like rearrange stuff and you like add out some more context. Like, okay, on Tuesdays, we're going to check the closet to see how many rolls of toilet paper there are. And every Tuesday at 9 a.m., if there's less than 4 rolls in the closet, I place an order for 4 rolls of toilet paper. That hereby, in perpetuity, guarantees I never am stranded in the bathroom again, right? Step number 4 is to deploy and execute the system, meaning either you do it yourself or you deploy it to your team. This is where everything falls apart and why people get screwed up with systems, is because when you introduce a system to your employees, especially if you're running a company shooting from the hip, they're not going to take you serious and they're not going to do it. And they've kind of had this like shoot from the hip mentality and you're trying to tighten it up. And so when you implement a system, it's required that you have to be no exceptions, no excuses, non-negotiable, broken record, on point with this thing every time. Does that make sense? And then the 5th part is to iterate and optimize. So like maybe once a year, we did it in the winter, we'd look at all of our systems and say, do we even need this? Do we really need this like super complex policy on this thing? Like, I think we overdid it. It didn't really matter, and we just delete it. Or we'd update it, and we'd have all of our employees work on these things with us as well. So nerdy. So nerdy, but so important. Anything else? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.